So here we go with our new chapter, chapter 10, and this is 10.1 over the Pythagorean theorem. I think you're going to find this not too bad, pretty easy. A couple things I want to highlight here with how do I apply the Pythagorean theorem. First of all, you can see our theorem, the formula here. It is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. When you are taking these notes, write all of this down, please. Because we can only use the Pythagorean theorem when we have what we call a right triangle. How do we know we have a right triangle? Well, you will see 90 degrees or a 90-degree mark in the corner. So if we have a 90-degree right triangle, then we can use the Pythagorean theorem. So now I want to talk about different characteristics of this triangle. The first characteristic is we have the two side lengths A and B, and those two side lengths are called legs. So side A and B are called a leg or legs. They make up that right angle. So they're always going to form that right angle, the 90-degree angle. Across from my 90-degree angle, we have our third side, which is C, and that C is called the hypotenuse. And it is always the C. And I'm going to tell you right now, it is going to always be your longest side. So now that we know some basic information about the Pythagorean theorem, we're going to actually solve for a missing side. So let's look at our next slide in example 1. So here on slide 2, we can see that with example 1, we have 6 and 8, and we have to find the C. So we're using our Pythagorean theorem. There's a right angle that's been identified right there. So we have a squared plus b squared is going to equal c squared. And we want to find just plain old c. So we're going to plug in. For the a and the b, they're both called legs. It doesn't matter if you put the 6 in for a or you put the 6 in for b. I usually just go smallest. So the 6 squared for my A, 8 squared for B, and we're going to try to find the side length of C, or my hypotenuse. So we need to square these. Squared means times itself. 6 times 6 is 36. 8 times 8 is 64. And I'm working down my paper and I'm literally just solving an equation. And so 36 plus 64 is 100. Well, now 100 equals the C squared. We talk a lot about inverse operations, and the opposite of add is subtract and multiply is divide. Well, the opposite of squaring a number is to take the square root on both sides. So to find the length of C, we square root both sides, so all we have left is C equals, and the square root of 100 is 10. And so here, my side length for C is 10. And it is the longest side, which we know it has to be because C will always be the longest. So one side is 6, one side is 8, and the hypotenuse here, side C, is 10. Let's look at 2 more examples. Pause me if I'm going too quick. Make sure you get everything written down. So you can see on example 2 that I actually have my C, because whatever is across from that 90-degree angle is going to equal your C. So we need to find either A or B, and honestly, it doesn't matter. So let's just go ahead and find A. We know we can use the Pythagorean theorem because we have this 90-degree angle. We can only use it when we have 90 degrees. So the last example you were solving for the hypotenuse. This example we're going to solve for the leg. So a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Let's go ahead and plug our numbers in. We don't know what a is. I'm going to substitute 8 for b, and I'm going to substitute 17 for c. We're going to start the evaluation to start to solve. 8 squared, we know, is 64. 17 times 17, or 17 squared, is 289. Again, we need to do our inverse operations to get the a all by itself. So I'm going to subtract 64 from both sides. And I have a squared equals 225. And remember, we want to find just the side length of a. So the inverse operation of squaring a number is to take the square root. Whatever we do to one side, we need to make sure we do to the other. And the square root of 225 is 15. So a is a side length of 15. Again, pause, rewind, watch twice, make sure you get everything down. Last example. Here, my last example, I'm giving you all 3 sides, and we want to know, the question is it going to make a right triangle? Well, we know that the biggest side is going to have to be our C. So I know this is going to have to be C. And so as I look at this, I can literally plug it into my formula and see if it works. I'm going to get a little darker color here. So we have a squared plus b squared equals c squared. We know 10 is going to be the c. It's the biggest number. And we know 4 and 8 are going to have to be the a and the b. So my question is, does 16 plus 64 give you 100? Is that a true statement? Well, 16 plus 64 is 80. Does 80 give you 100? No. So this will not make a right triangle. It does not work. You cannot make a right triangle out of side lengths 4, 8, and 10. A right triangle means you have a 90-degree angle. Let's go ahead and look at the next two. We know this is C, and this is going to be my biggest. So 10 squared is 100, plus 24 squared is 576. And let's square my C, my largest side, and I get 676. So my question to you here is, does 100 plus 576 equal 676? Yes. This will make a right triangle. The one I circled will make a right triangle. Our original one does not make a right triangle. And let's check our last one. And when we look at our very last one here, we can see that we have 3 sides. If we square those 3 sides, so I have 17 times 17, that would be 289. 15 times 15, that would be 225. And the square root of 514 and then square it is just going to give you 514. Do the 2 smaller ones equal the larger value. 289 plus 225 does equal 514. So, yes, this will also create a right angle. It will create a right triangle. So the first one did not, but the last two did. Hope all's going well. Watch over these notes again. We're going to do practice tomorrow. Have a great night.